A ballerina's perspective, from performing with New York City Ballet and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater to publishing poetry books and mentoring kids and teens. Join us in a weekly discussion with experts to gain mental health clarity and achieve growth in moral consciousness. Give our show a 5 stars, comment, share, and come along for the ride. Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. Today, we will talk a little bit about networking, entrepreneurship, and business leadership with our very special guest, George Dubec, developing the Founders League to create a movement to change our culture from a me society to a we society. He believes new leadership is necessary to follow a code of ethics and be held accountable. Creator of the Referral matchmaking system that uses your social network to find a date or mate, developing a new dating relationship TV show, Love List Network, and an expert in business and social networking. So, what a beautiful bio. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be on your podcast. I hope we can bring some valuable insights and information to your listening audience. And I've been around a long time. I just turned 78 a couple months ago. And
Amazing.
it's, like I said, I've done a lot of things in my life. I've had so many different careers, projects, challenges. Um, I have 3 kids, 4 grandkids, 2 great grandkids. So I worked out pretty good in the family area. I've been married 45 years, and that's my personal life. And then I've written 6 books. I've been in movies. I've been on TV. I had my own radio show for 12 years. I used to be a flamenco dancer back in the day. I was a stained glass artist for a period of time. So I've done things in the arts, entertainment, business. I own my own company. Right now, we have the second largest streaming company in the United States. My partner and wife run the company because I retired from it a little while back. And
Fantastic. Wow, what a beautiful array of different things you've accomplished. And we can totally just dive into even definition of success. Like, what do you think is the definition of success, having achieved so many beautiful things, having so much accomplishment?
well, my big focus on this part of my life is that I realized I spent a lot of time on useless endeavors and self grandiose things, basically ego centered. And then I finally learned after all these years that we live in a me society, which I was part of, the culture. It was all about me, making me happy, doing things that put me in front of the crowd, ego, self centered, so forth. And I realized that we have, like I said, a me society where everybody is so focused on themselves, and everybody in our society, and today especially, thinks they're a self-proclaimed expert. Everybody has the answer. Everybody knows the truth. So it's really kind of daunting. But I say success in life is to basically procreate, have children, help them raise their children, build a family, build a legacy. That is success. Money, fame, cars mean nothing. In fact, Ari, the interesting thing about it is all the things I've done in my life. Do you know that my family doesn't care? My grandkids, my they don't care. That they just call me Grandpa Geo. That's it. I show them stuff that I did on TV. I've been on TV shows, and they listen to my old shows. They don't even think it's me. They think it's like some character. I mean, because I'm sitting there with them in the room, and they look at it, and it's like, and it's almost like it's an AI generated person.
Yes, that's so funny. It is true though. It's like when you are doing things and trying to find your success through the ego, which is an important part of ourselves. It's kind of like when little children start having their identity, they become extremely selfish because that's the first time in their life when it's like me. Like every 3-year-old child is so self-centered, and that's the journey to growing up. And then hopefully when they have a healthy, nurturing environment and they become adults, they can see now the value of the we mentality, because any kind of teamwork and any kind of holistic success, in a way, it's true that that foundation of a nuclear family, that is the traditional kind of perfection timeline that everybody dreams of. And people who kind of try to tear that down do have probably wounds, because a lot of people do struggle with the idea of family these days. I feel like people, either they have, some kind of trauma from their own past relationships or past experiences that lead them to this kind of journey where they feel detached or they feel isolated from the concept of family and we, and they become obsessed with me, and it leads them down kind of like a stagnant road, because it's kind of like going on a hamster wheel, trying to accomplish all the things on your own, and then looking back thinking like, what was that for? Actually, what was the higher spiritual meaning of that? Was that was I running away from something? Was I avoiding something? So yes, I love how you mentioned the value of family and the importance of that, and everything else is just like an ego character that helps us along life.
Well, actually, you brought up a good point I never thought of, but I have a 3-year-old granddaughter. And I think, again, we have a culture problem in this society, and people don't grow up. Like you said, the little kids initially are selfish. It's all about me because they want to be nurtured, taken care of, and so forth. But now what's happening is people are extending that into adulthood, and adults are now self-centered, and it's still, they want attention, they want to be taken care of, they're entitled to everything. And this is interesting. I enjoy research on the Amish culture. You familiar with the Amish?
Yes.
The most intriguing thing to me that I found out is that they don't revere competition. In fact, they don't have competition.
If you're ready to shake off that daily stress, come join us for online beginner, adult, ballet, and yoga classes each week to connect with the flow of movement and the art of ballet into perfect synergy. Come as you are and learn to love your body a little bit more and gain strength and flexibility with each class. All are welcome. Sign up at balletartsmovement@gmail.com. First class free. Televital supports focus, energy, immunity, sleep, recovery, and resilience. Start feeling better today on a cellular level with zeolite, super green juice, micronutrient gut support, and more. Get over 50% off your first order for Televital. Link in the description of the podcast.
Think about that. How would our society be if nobody cared if you were the first or the best or on the Wheaties box or were the Super Bowl champ? What if all you did all day is woke up and figured out how to help your family, your friends, and your community, and you didn't care if you were the fastest, the prettiest, the strongest? In fact, my granddaughter, my grandniece in Ohio, who's 3 years old, she went to visit some family, and I have two great granddaughters who are older. They're 8 and 6. So when my little 3-year-old grandniece got home, she was crying. And my sister asked her, "What's the matter?" And she said, Lucy, who's the 6-year-old, said that she wasn't pretty. So, like we're talking about, it starts at a young age. All of a sudden, we start demeaning other people, cutting people down, making other people feel less than we are. And then it bothers us because of our self-image. It's like destroys the self-image. And today on the cell phones, and the same thing with muscle guys, the bodybuilders, they keep putting pictures on posing. Well, what does that do for anybody? And even if you look at them and say they're beautiful, how does that help me? How does that help them? It doesn't. It's So we have a culture problem, and I don't know what's going to correct it, to be honest with you. In fact, we're getting to a point now where the younger generation is not building a legacy, the weight of the breakdown of the family, not economics, not politics. I think to myself at 78 years old, if right now I didn't have any kids, my life would, I don't know, what would I do? Write more books? Like stand on my head? Go lift more weights? But the only thing that is of value to me at this point in life are my kids, grandkids, and great grandkids. So Anyway, that's some words of wisdom. I tell all young people that you should plan to have at least 3 kids. Fish lay 1,000 eggs. Anyway, so there goes my old age rant.
Fantastic. I love that. I appreciate that because so many people, I feel like they actually want to hear this message that you're portraying because they've been fed a different perspective and a very weakened perception of what life is about. And unfortunately, the shows that's on TV and, like you mentioned, on the phones and everything like that, it's very attention seeking. It doesn't lead to anything fruitful or productive or worth of value. And I think when society or wherever people are learning, they don't teach that as much as they should about the value of family and the value of what it means to grow up and be an adult and what you have to aspire to. Because when people are growing up in today's age, they need guidance, and the guidance should inspire them to look forward, to create a meaningful life. And how do you create a meaningful life? You have to take on responsibility. You have to learn to be responsible for something to open the doors for your own purpose. So I think teaching kids at a younger age to be responsible for something really, really helps them and also nurtures them to
Well,
become
the
healthier.
only
Podpitch is the first and only software that finds, writes, and sends pitches to podcast hosts from your actual email address. Podpitch will make sure you get podcast bookings, guaranteed. Link in the description of the podcast. ClickFunnels easily build any type of online business and sales funnel in record time, no matter what your product, service, or niche, without any tech design or experience whatsoever. Try the ClickFunnels 14-day free trial. Link in the description of the podcast.
problem, Ari, is that our society is not set up for that. I'll just take you down memory lane. I'll give you a little history. In 1967, I became an engineer at General Motors in Ohio. Okay, I worked in an assembly plant, 12,000 people, and there were 60,000 people in the town. So that was the hub of the whole town. When I started in 1967, I got married. I was 20 years old, and I was married and had a child. Everybody that worked at General Motors, all the engineers, all the people, the majority were all married and they all had kids. So that culture, everywhere we went, it was all families. It was all the guys that all my engineer friends were all married. They all had kids in their 20s and 30s and well, even 40. I mean, all of them. So we had a culture of family. We went on picnics together. We went out as couples. Like we would go double date with couples and go out to movies and entertain. Then all of a sudden, 1970s hit. In the mid 70s, all hell broke loose. That's when, okay, what happened was you could no longer, or you could go get a divorce by going down to courthouse and do a thing called an annulment. That started in the mid 70s. Before then, you had to go to court. You had to have a judge actually place an order that you can get a divorce. You had to have witnesses. You had to prove that your partner something was wrong with them or there was detrimental situations. So it was very difficult and cumbersome to get a divorce. And then in 1975, roughly, you just go down to courthouse, sign some papers, and get an attorney to split up the assets. And then the late 70s, the disco era hit. And all of a sudden, in my little town of Warren, Ohio, we had 60,000 people. We had the second highest divorce rate in the country next to Orange County, California. The reason was in our plant of 12,000 people, 9,000 were women and 3,000 were men. The women in the plant, right out of high school, now this is 1975, were making $7 to $8 an hour, full medical benefits, and they got new car discounts. So most of the women were making the same amount of money or more than their husbands and boyfriends. So what do you think happened? The minute their husband or boyfriend didn't do what they liked, hit the road, Jack, because I can take care of myself. And all of a sudden, our town became like Studio 54. We had 10 disco clubs on one street. And guys would come from Pittsburgh, Akron, Canton, Cleveland to come and hook up with our divorced women. and it was crazy. And then I got into it too, and I got divorced in the late 70s. So I experienced the culture shift from family life to this. All of a sudden, everybody joined the gym. In the 70s, all of a sudden they opened up gyms. We didn't, in the early 70s, there was the YMCA was it, and the YWCA. There was no fitness clubs, gyms, nobody trying to work out. And then in the late 70s, you had Jane Fonda workout. Women were joining the gym, pumping iron. That was opening Pandora's box. And it's never been the same. It just escalated. So there you go. That's history for you.
Is that what inspired you to open up this idea of you have a dating, you're interested in making a dating site or something like that?
Well, yeah. Well, what I did, okay, there's some more history. So I became the John Travolta of Warren, Ohio. I had a three-piece white suit, black shirt, gold chains. I had a really big mop of hair. I had the big side chop sideburns. I had a Smokey and the Bandit Firebird. So you can imagine what my life was like. Plus, I was an engineer at General Motors, and all the women wanted to be with the white collar workers. So I became like the rock star in our local plant. So it was like actually totally crazy. But anyway, I was dating and dating all these women. I had 2, 3 dates a weekend. And I said to myself, you know what? This is not, I don't know. I'm never with a girl that I really like connect with. It was, I hate to say this, but I dated a lot of blondes. And the reason was because men are visual. I would walk into the club, and what do you think I would do? I would look around and I would see a girl that looked like that, and that was what I would be my target. But I didn't think about the cerebral part, or would they be a person I want to be with? It was all about, you know, being in the scene, being with the hottest girls, going out, dating, and all that. So, but then I came up with an idea. I said, you know what? Nobody really knows how to find a compatible mate. So I was an engineer. So I made a list of everything that I wanted in the opposite sex. And I had 10 best male friends that were all single, meeting women all the time. So what I did is I gave them all the list, and I said, if you run into a girl that fits this description, I want you to connect me. And my best friend, Paul, 3 months later, he calls me up and he goes, hey, I met this gal at a party. You got to meet her. And that was my now wife. She's my second wife. We've been married 45 years. We got a beautiful daughter and a granddaughter. And I developed that system, and I call it referral matchmaking, using your social network to help you find somebody within the circle of friends and family that you can connect with.
Yes, fantastic. I think there's also like Coffee Meets Bagel or something. There are all these kind of networking sites that do connect from your friends, your friends' friends. So yeah, it's great to keep it in the community. That's how people support each other, and when people know each other, it's so much easier to find that connection or that seeking the
Well,
same
there's a more of a
values.
trust factor because they're within your circle. So
I have a course actually, like people who want to do online dating if that's their only option. I have a course for like empaths to help them on the journey of online dating. You do have to weed out very quickly. So yes, it's true. You have to be careful and
now here's
determined
the second
to.
part, though. Once you do find somebody that fits your love list, let's say, the second part is it's almost like a job interview today. You can't just base it on love, sex, and romance. In fact, one of my favorite phrases is a good date does not make a good mate. In other words, you can meet somebody like you ever watch all these TV shows for singles. They're all glamorous. The women are all painted up. They all look good. The guys look great. They go on these exotic dates. They have a great time. Well, I mean, I'd love to do that with lots of women, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to live my life with them. I mean, then when you start paying the bills and you have kids and you have problems, what kind of a person are you with? That dating stuff is over. I guess you call it the honeymoon period. So
Yes,
that's why you got to find out what are the values of this person. What do they like? What are their goals? What are their objectives? What do they want? I mean, again, people don't ask enough questions when they first start dating. They don't. I almost
exactly.
call it an interview.
Unlock your best life with Soul app. Book a holistic wellness experience with a trained guide and start changing your life today with compassion practices, inner healing, food and diet, and so much more. Tap into a healthier and happier life with the #1 purposeful living app in the US, the Soul app, link in the description of the podcast. Sanger Daniel's online seminar promoting a positive message of self-healing with bioenergy work together with live seminars and remote coaching. Use code BIO20 for a 20% discount for our audience. Link in the description of the podcast. Yes, and sometimes it's actually you can actually even put it on your profile that like in your bio that you are looking for like everything you're looking for specifically. You should actually say that, and it should be kind of like an interview in a sense that you're trying to connect based on compatibility and based on the things that you have in common, the values that you have. So I feel like that's fine. Having an awkward first date that's about interviewing, that's safe. If you're looking for something long term, that should be no problem. That should actually help weed out everything quicker and make everything more efficient when you're on the dating path, when you're on the dating search towards finding a future partner.
Well, then the other issue, though, that people need to be told before they get married is that no matter who you marry, you could marry what's called the soulmate, the most compatible person in the world. You're getting along great mentally, physically. Everything is like the most perfect situation. As you go through life, I've been married 45 years. Everything is going to go away. All the stuff that you start out when you're dating is not going to be there 5, 10, 15, 20 years later. It's all going to be gone. You're going to have a whole new person. You're going to be with a whole new person. As people age, they change. Their mindset changes. Their preferences change. So anybody that thinks that they're not in the long term, it's a commitment and it's a responsibility and an obligation. People have to understand that. And at some point in time, they can't stand them. So my question to young couples when they first meet is, what are you going to do when that happens? Because it will happen 100%. And no one tells you that. Because when you're with somebody, you go, oh, that's not going to happen to us. Oh my God, we love each other. We're mad. We're perfect. It doesn't work that way. But does anybody tell you that? No. I'm telling people that. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, from 1985 to 1992, my wife and I had the largest singles network in South Florida. It was called the Find a Mate Singles Network. And we used to teach the referral matchmaking program. And we were on Sally Jesse Raphael, Phil Donahue, Faith Daniels. We were on national TV. We were teaching. We had 10,000 single people. Now, this is before online dating. It was computer matchmaking back in the late 80s.
Wow.
And my wife got pregnant, and we sold that business in 1991. But, I can consider myself actually an expert in love, sex, and relationships. In fact, I wrote a book called Sexuality Probe, which is available on Amazon. And put in George Dubec, Dubec, or my website is theultimatenetworker.com. That's THE ultimatenetworker.com, all one word. You can go on there, get on my email list. And in fact, if you sign up and put a note that you were listening to this show, I'll send you free PDF copies of my books. In fact, Ari, I'll send you some copies too.
Fantastic.
All right, well, one of my books that I'm going to send you is called Reality Probe. It has 1,000 questions. So what you can do with whoever you're dating, you can take the book, go in the book, and ask each other all these questions. It's amazing.
Yes, I love those.
Because also, did you know that you can't ask your date or mate certain questions? People are afraid to ask certain questions.
I think.
And here's one of the questions also is, kind of like what I was alluding to about you get into problems as life goes on. But, you would ask your mate, listen, when things go really bad in our relationship down the road, if we get together and get serious, what's your strategy if things get really bad? If we get unhappy with each other, what would you do? Ask them.
Yes.
They probably have no answer because you want to put in their head already start thinking about it because what would you do? Or you can
I love
actually
that.
ask them a question. Say, listen, if I caught you cheating, what do you think I would do? And then if you caught me cheating, what would you do? Now, those are questions that people like are scared to ask those questions.
That's fantastic. Yes, that's
But
that's
if
great.
it but if you ask the question out of the book, see if you have a book of questions, you can use that as a buffer and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, it's in the book. Let's just answer these questions."
Yes,
So,
exactly, exactly.
yep. But anyway,
Fantastic.
yeah. Well, try that method. Make a list of everything that physical characteristics, personality traits, deal makers, deal breakers, experience and background you're looking for, and give it to some of your family and friends and say, "Hey, help me out." Say, "I'm looking for this situation. If you know somebody at work or in your neighborhood, connect me."
Yes. Thank you so much, George, for coming on. It was a great, inspired conversation. And I think this is like a multi generational thing. And hopefully, our listeners will walk away learning more about the the values that you shared about family and how to co create like healthier, longer lasting relationships, which is true. You have to ask the hard questions.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, it was great to be on your show, and I'll promote it to my database and share it on Facebook and Instagram, and
Yes.
that way people can listen in.